I think this is an awkward signing for Celtic because it's. I said last week in a column, it's not really a backup for Kieran Tierney. I think at this point in time, and the way it's been in the last 2 years with Kieran Tierney, it's a job share. But it's a hard sell to do it. If you're saying to a player, it's a job share, but you're kind of going to be the second choice. If everybody's fit, you're going to be second choice. But you might play 25 games a season because we can't play. Listen, Kieran Tierney isn't going to play 90 minutes, 55 games a season. It's just not, because he's not got that. There isn't any evidence to suggest that's going to be possible for him, at least in the short term. If he does, fair play. For him, it would be great to go and see him do that. I don't really see it. He's only played 90 minutes 6 times in 2 years. So even on a weekly basis, he doesn't play 90 minutes. Not yet, anyway. So there is going to be a big part to play for whoever comes in. But if you're going to a guy who's 26 in their prime and saying you're kind of going back up, but might not be, because Kieran's going to be the first choice, but he might get injured and you need to play in Champions League. So they need to find a guy that can play in these big games if needed, but also be on the sidelines. So it's a difficult one to pitch. So you need to get a young guy who's up and coming, who's hungry, who's thinking, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to compete for that place, I'm going to take his place. Or you get an experienced guy who's maybe in the way down the hill, thinking, well, okay, I can't do that either. I can't play 60 games either, but I'll go in and play really well when I get a chance. Getting a guy at 26, 27, his peak is going to be difficult.
Another difficult aspect to that is, we know that Kieran Tierney is known washers at Celtic, so he's immediately in as one of the highest earners at the club, if not the high. So you can't go and bring a left back in, on a backup left back on big money either. So you're totally right. It's a very delicate, difficult sell to get. I mean, obviously Schlupp came in at the end of last season, and that was perfect at that time. No, it was just kind of what they needed. Yeah. But obviously Rodgers is going to want a different kind of profile to that going into this season, for the reasons that Mick's outlined there, because there's every chance that you could play 25, 30 games next season, certainly be heavily involved. So very difficult to pick the right one and then persuade them to come and do that role.
Right. And just finally, before we round up on Celtic, Stuart says, Mick, he says, I really hope the underwhelming debut seasons of Ida and Engels doesn't make the Celtic board revert to the old spending policy this summer. This is the time to spend big. And just to kind of go along with that, we've got a few people here.
I've just written my kind of column on this, and it's sitting somewhere in cyberspace ready to release it in the wild. I'm not going to say a word.
Well, Gorbel says Evan Ferguson to Celtic. I mean, he wouldn't be cheap. But do either of you guys anticipate Celtic, really pushing the boat out this summer?
I'm not sure, Mick. I mean, I suppose they'll feel as if they're genuinely serious about trying to find another level in Europe, because clearly they've dominated in Scotland. Who knows what kind of challenge Rangers are going to put up this season? There's so much change there. You just don't know. It's how Brendan Rodgers sees them developing as a squad and in Europe. Can they go any further than getting to that first knockout stage? They obviously came really close against Bayern Munich last season. If they're going to get to that next level, they probably do need to spend big again. They need to spend the level of transfer fees that they spent on Engels and Ida again. Whether they'll do that or not, I'm not so sure. I think we've spoke before on here, and I've said a lot will depend on maybe players going out as well. If bids come in for certain players. I mean, who's to say a big bid doesn't come in for Maida, for instance, before the window closes? That can change your whole transfer strategy. Do you know what I mean, in terms of what you need and what you're going to spend? So I'm not sure. My gut feeling is they'll spend decent money without going overboard. And I think that's pretty much been the Celtic way in recent seasons. Last summer did feel quite big because of those kind of headline 9 million, 11 million on Ida and Engels, even 6 million on Trusty. I'd be surprised if they go and spend that again, but Mick maybe know better.
What do you think, Mick?
I think it's going to be really interesting, because I think spending 26 million on those three late in the window was certainly a departure for Celtic, spending that kind of money on three players. I think you look at the list. I mean, I mentioned, joking about the 16 guys in the list at the moment. They're all kind of back towards more kind of traditional Celtic targets, 2, 3, 4 or 5 million quid, one or two exceptions, out with that kind of band. So I think my suspicion is there might be not a total reversing back to their old kind of style, and not a complete sticking with last summer's. I think you might see a bit of both. I think you might see Celtic hoover up half a dozen guys on your kind of 2, 3, 4 million pound to get the squad bolstered and refreshed. And I think as the window ticks on, there'll be options to go and spend, because the guys in that market, you don't tend to get them early, because the reason why they're expensive is because there's demand. The demand means that they've got options. The option means that they'll wait and see what these options continue to be, and to maximise their value and their own contractual value. So these guys will be late in the window. So I think you see Celtic might hoover up half a dozen guys at the usual traditional Celtic type signings we've seen for the last 15 years. And then as the window ticks on, the last week, I think they might see them going big guns. And I think if you get an option of a player that does cost 8, 9, 10 million pounds, I don't think they'll be shy. If an option lands in their lap they can go for, then I think they might go and do it. So I say my suspicion is you'll get a hybrid of both, not last season and not quite the previous. So a bit of both. I think they will. The option that the thing, Celtic have got that ability; they can do it if they want. Do you know what I mean? But I think a lot it will do. Scotty hit the nail on the head, because a lot it will depend on if there's a sale. It's not even the placing like for like. It's also the kind of the perception as well. Celtic cash in on Dyson Maeda for 25 million quid, right? Or Nicholas Kuhn for 15 million quid, or Hatate for 10 million quid, or something like that, or any combination of these three guys going for big money. If they don't then go and make a statement in the market, people are going to be asking questions. Why? Again, the money in the bank, the Champions League coming up, they constantly demand to keep progressing and develop the team and improve. If they don't go big, the questions getting asked. So that might force the hand in the last weeks of the window to go big. So I think there will be. I think they will start doing it. I think they might be. I wouldn't be surprised to be a £10 million player coming this summer at some point. But it'll be after 6, £2.5, £3 million players.
Aye.